You're listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.
Fishers are one of my favorite species, and I had the fortune to study them some when I was living in Albany. And I'm always amazed by the fisher-porcupine interaction, right? Because fishers are one of the only mammals that regularly kills porcupines. You know, I think cougars do it pretty often, but otherwise, that's about it. In North America, you know, the fisher is the enemy of the porcupine. And as far as I know, no one's ever seen it in the wild. What we think they need to do is that the fishers have to catch the porcupines on the ground. So especially in the winter, the porcupines will sleep in a hole or in a rock crevice or something, and then they'll walk through the snow and then go up a tree to eat. And so when they're in their hole, they're safe, and we're in the tree, they're pretty safe. But we think the fisher needs to get them on the ground and then sort of run around and bite them on the head. And so the coyote moved in, you know, first moved into upstate New York in kind of the 1950s. Here in Raleigh, here in North Carolina, it didn't get here until really the 80s or 90s in some areas. And along the way, they started looking different. And so, like, you know, when they first got into New York, people called them coy dogs because, you know, implying that they had hybridized with dogs. And other places they call them coy wolf. And so, and they definitely look different. And so we did one of the first systematic surveys, and there's been a lot of work since then as well. And what we have learned is that the coyote hybridized with wolves first, probably in the Great Lakes. And if you think about, like, when two species hybridize, they don't really want to, right? They would rather breed with their own type. And when we think it happens is when one is really rare and can't find another animal to breed with. And so if you think about 100 years ago in Minnesota and the Great Lakes, there were a few wolves barely hanging on. And that's when it looks like they hybridized with coyotes. And so what happened is those wolf genes worked their way into the coyote population. And those coyotes that had the wolf genes in them, they moved very quickly east. And they were significantly larger, and their skulls were larger and especially extra wide. And by having an extra wide skull, you have more room for muscle attachment and a much stronger bite, which might have helped them hunt deer. I call it a snort weedle. It's kind of a So that doesn't really sound like Kinkajou to me, but maybe to some people it does.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you'd like to listen to the full episode, then visit mammalwatching.com/podcast.